Hey guys, welcome back to Total Tactics FPL. It's Fran here and I'm back with a new video. Today's video is going to be looking at my Matchday 2 team selection. And as you guys know, I will be using the booster chip of the Wildcard. The Wildcard is extremely useful because, as we talked about, this is a much stronger chip than the FPL one. Not only can you change your team before Matchday 2, you can also change it during Matchday 2. And that means our locked and unlocked players, we can do those kind of transfer glitches with our team as well using the Wildcard, although I don't really think I'm going to care too much about it. I don't think I'm too focused in this game. It has been a bit of a joke and it's a bit of a fun game for me now. I'm not really taking it too seriously. I did end up with a ranking of 16,930, but that was after using a very, very terrible 12-man chip on Neymar. I know some people must have also suffered maybe changing their captaincy to Neymar as well, even though he had a very unflattering performance today. However, I am planning to use the wildcard booster chip, as I said, and yeah, starting off with a 67 point start with Matchday 1. The defense is going to change quite radically. I've actually dropped Doomfries, even though he has a great game versus Ecuador. I just think that Ecuador looked rather compact in the first game versus Qatar. Yes, Qatar actually had a great chance actually in the dying stages of that first half, but overall I don't think we actually saw much that was very impressive about Qatar. In fact, I thought Ecuador looked quite interesting. They actually were able to play quite decisively with the fullbacks and use their crossing to full display. They also found it quite easy to break apart Qatar, but I don't really think that we can say the same for the Netherlands. However, I think that this is going to be a game where Netherlands will be challenged a little bit more so than in the previous game for Senegal. And therefore, I think that Noppert is a decent hedge versus Doomfries. I don't really want to double up on the Netherlands defense for now. I think it makes less sense to do so. I was quite confident in England, though, and I think they had a fantastic performance versus Iran. Of course, there was a huge drop-off, especially when Mehdi found a fantastic goal where he scored with a one-touch opportunity, and then of course the game sort of descended into a little bit of chaos because England had a lot of subs as well. Players like Marcus Rashford and Grealish were still getting involved. Even Callum Wilson as well got an assist, and ultimately I don't think England worried about losing their clean sheet. It was a game that changed quite radically after the 60th minute, so I'm expecting hopefully that they can rectify some of these mistakes that even Southgate pointed out, and that I can get Shaw in my team. I thought Shaw was a little bit more attacking from the open play point of view compared to someone like Trippier. I thought Trippier was a little bit more reserved, even though he will be on set pieces. I just think that Shaw in open play is a little bit more of an interesting attacking point if I was to choose one of the two. Last time around, I actually went Trippier, and I think I regretted it a little bit, and therefore I'm trying to alleviate that by going for Shaw this time. I'm still backing Otamendi this time round. I still think that Mexico looked very, very dire. I think they didn't create many significant chances versus Poland, and ultimately, when you look at something or the Saudi Arabia team, they were playing with a very high line. They were able to use their 10 very effectively, whereas I don't think Mexico really have many outlets this time around. Their national selection is very, very poor, and I think Argentina will try to step up. Ultimately, when you look at the context of that great Saudi Arabia upset, you have to consider that Argentina had some fantastic form heading towards the tournament, and I don't think we can completely change our opinions on that team immediately. I still think Argentina have a great chance to get a clean sheet. Otamendi still at a very good price of 5.0, so I'm therefore keeping Otamendi. As far as Theo Hernandez, he's a fantastic pick. I've actually changed the photo of Theo Hernandez. This is not the photo of him on the website. They're actually using a photo of his brother, Lucas Hernandez, who unfortunately has an ACL rupture, and therefore Theo Hernandez actually joins our team because we now know he's going to be nailed for France. One of the benefits is that if you look at Theo Hernandez's attacking stats for France, they've been fantastic, and knowing that he'll probably actually get that starting position because he also got a fantastic assist in that game, I just really think he'll be nailed in this team, and at 5.0, he's someone that you can't miss out on, even if he gets to play versus Denmark. One of the positives as well was that Denmark versus Tunisia was a game where both teams weren't really able to create significant chances, and that's a great opportunity for someone like Theo Hernandez to get both a clean sheet and maybe also some attacking dividends. Even though Denmark did recently beat France 2-0, we have seen France quite radically change their structure. So I think this France team is going to be much improved, but there's going to be a question mark on whether I actually include Mbappe in my team, even though it seems like on paper, I'd say heading into this World Cup specifically, and with the selection of squads that we have available and the players, that Mbappe is probably the player of the tournament to look at overall. But I think that there's a good justification if you're wildcarding Matchday 2 and you plan to change your team once again for Matchday 3, that Mbappe could maybe skip out on your team this week. As far as Shaw, I've already discussed about him, and then Sosa's the defender who also rounds out the starting selection. Sosa is someone who is just at fantastic budget pricing at 3.5 million, hoping that he gets to play again for Croatia. It seems like he's actually fit and ready to go. Maybe there will be a rotation, but we still have the opportunity to play around with some budget. Unfortunately, at 3.5, we are kind of locked into this position with the Croatian left backs, so we will have to see if we can alleviate that, if there's any last minute news over Sosa and whether he's able to start, but I think he will. He seemed like he had a relatively decent game out last time round, and Marquinhos, of course. I think the clean sheet odds actually suggest that both Argentina and Brazil have great chances of getting a clean sheet. Watching Serbia play and watching Switzerland and Cameroon play specifically, I really think that Brazil will have, once again, another opportunity to get a clean sheet. Serbia were close 1 or 2 times in the game, but they really weren't really affecting Brazil whatsoever outside of the set pieces. Of course, Switzerland have that danger where Embolo was able to score off a set piece himself, but I'm hoping that Marquinhos will be able to deliver. And one of the benefits of getting Marquinhos is that he is cheaper than Thiago Silva, and I still don't think that the fullbacks for the Brazilian team are nailed, or do they even play an attacking role in that team. Both Alexandre and Danilo are very, very defensive, whereas Brazil pretty much attack throughout that kind of midfield and attacking five, including Paqueta as well. We're also seeing that Casemiro is increasingly involved, so I think we will not see much involvement from the fullbacks in the system, and that's why Marquinhos is going to join my team at a 5.5 price for what should be a cheaper Brazilian defender, because Alisson, of course, is at 6.0 as a keeper as well. Moving into the midfield, I'd like to actually go with Asensio. Asensio is someone who I thought I missed out on. I actually talked about him when I was doing my transfer exploits video. I was talking about the kind of midfielders we could bring in, especially if we already had De Bruyne in our team. I just thought De Bruyne had better odds to actually do well in his game, but of course we saw that Belgium were pretty pathetic, and I therefore think this is a great opportunity to still invest in the Spanish attack because the German defense just didn't look very, very good overall. Asensio is still playing that forward position. I think he also got some rest, which does indicate to me that he has a chance to start again. If we get the news that Asensio might not start in his game, then I think we can just simply wildcard him out. This is the benefit of having a wildcard. You can definitely pick some of these Spanish players where they look like quite a serious attack, and you can invest into them without actually feeling bad about whether they're going to start or not. That was one of the problems we had previously out in Matchday 1, when we didn't really know the situation and the position of Ansu Fati, Ferran Torres, Asensio, Sarabia, so on and so forth, which is also why I moved out of Ansu Fati into Lautaro Martinez, although it didn't work out because he pretty much was offside of a shoulder width, and that kind of denied him a goal scoring opportunity. But regardless, anyways, we've gone for Asensio here. And Di Maria, I think, still is a fantastic pick, and that probably indicates I'm actually going still triple Argentina. Just think that this Mexico team doesn't have much to offer. I don't think even from the counter-attacking point of view they'll be that good. From a defensive point of view as well. Similarly, I think Di Maria was actually one of the more effective players in the Argentina game. He was one player that was actually more precise with his passing and with his final third kind of distribution. And he was looking constantly to create these chances, but I thought the Saudi Arabian defense were actually very, very good at actually keeping their line compact and narrow, and also without any kind of positional mistakes in terms of offsides and letting people run in behind from this Argentina team. However, I think Di Maria will be able to exploit that versus a much weaker Mexican defense that is bolstered by Ochoa in his World Cup form. But yeah, I still think Di Maria is a great pick, especially at that price. Saka is someone who I would like to include into my team. This was a player that we had issues with in terms of guessing whether he would be able to start for Matchday 1, because we have news that Foden, for example, or at least previously in some matches, we've seen that Foden has played ahead of Saka, and they've almost rotated that position 1-for-1. Game in, game out. But I think Saka getting some early rest in Matchday 1 probably indicates that he is going to be that permanent starter for England until his performances drop, or unless someone proves to Gareth Southgate, such as Marcus Rashford, who had such a great game as a substitute, that they deserve to play ahead of Saka. But for now, I think he's still a great punt versus USA. They still have to get all these 3 points so they can easily advance ahead and determine their fate with that Matchday 3 game. So Saka for me is the punt to go for this English national team pick alongside Shaw. Kudus is someone I thought had a fantastic game versus Portugal. Yes, he didn't really find his way towards points in that game, but I thought he was very, very lively, and I thought it definitely showed that he is going to be that gem of that Ghanaian team, and I really like the punt of going for South Korea, because I thought Uruguay still had a couple chances. They were just not precise enough at times, but some players like a Fede Valverde, who operates in a midfield position, was actually given a lot of space to actually take shots on target, and I think Kudus is someone who will benefit from that opportunity because he operates a little bit deeper than some other players in the Ghanaian national team, even though we expect him to be a forward when we look at him playing for Ajax. Regardless, I think he's going to have plenty of opportunities, and I thought he still looked incredibly lively versus what we consider to be one of the best defenses in the world, which is this Portuguese national team, even though, of course, the results haven't been fantastic since their Euro victory many, many years ago. In terms of my last pick for the midfield position, it's going to be Fernandes, who I'm actually keeping in my team. I thought he had a fantastic performance versus Ghana, and I really think that he will get more opportunities to both score. We actually saw within the system that sometimes he would be making the runs in behind alongside Ronaldo. He was also fantastic just simply in terms of his distribution. Very big contrast between his performance and compared to KDB's performance versus Canada. If you looked at some of the chances that KDB had in these kind of 2-versus-3 or 3-on-3 opportunities, he really didn't find the open man. Tielemans, for example, had a great one in behind in the first half versus Canada, and KDB completely left him wide open. Whereas Fernandes was actually picking the absolute right passes, especially when the game was tied. So I think Fernandes is an essential player for this Portuguese team. Of course, he's not on penalties, which is a huge detriment, but neither really is De Bruyne. And I think Fernandes is just much cheaper and much more accessible at that price. And I don't think the Belgium ceiling is that high. So I think missing out on KDB even though we got a huge change of the rules for the midfielder position, doesn't change much. I really like Fernandes, and I'm hoping that he can also find a goal in Matchday 2. And if I move on to the forwards, the picks that I'm going for is a Messi captaincy first, and then I'll actually flexibly change that around. And that's going to be paired up with Depay as well. I thought Depay actually looked pretty lively. We of course knew that he wasn't going to play Matchday 1, but there's a serious chance that he will be involved in Matchday 2. Once again, similarly, we will get the lineup news early, and therefore I have the opportunity and the chance to actually upgrade Depay later on in the tournament if we see that he's not able to play. So I will be going for Messi first and then Depay, and then I will change things around on that basis. Messi is someone who we saw still had a relatively good game previously versus Saudi Arabia. Of course, the result was shocking. I thought Argentina overall, as a team, some key players like Rodrigo de Paul looked pretty terrible, but Messi still looked like a player of old. I think that there's not much that I'm really going to change in terms of Messi. I think, of course, you can talk about Lewandowski as a player. He's a great shout at this position because he plays versus what we consider to be a weak team in Saudi Arabia, but Messi for Mexico versus Mexico for me is a good punt to actually play the captaincy with. The security of penalties is there, and he still has the opportunity to slip passes in behind. He was actually very close to getting Lautaro Martinez twice in that game. So for me, there's no reason to not go Messi. I think he's still a great captaincy shout. And actually, as it turned out, the two best captaincy picks were the ones we talked about in terms of Messi and Mbappe. I don't think many people were really thinking about the midfielders last week, and even some who actually pivoted to De Bruyne or even Neymar suffered as a result. So Messi is still a very consistent pick and someone that I'm very, very confident in owning. Depay is someone who is also similarly a talisman for Netherlands. He's going to play alongside someone like a Gakpo on the team. If you actually look at the formational change, I think the only thing that changes really is that Janssen actually doesn't play, and that's really the only key difference there. And Richarlison is going to be the last player on this team. He had a fantastic performance in Brazil when you actually look at the overall game in context. Of course, the first half was actually relatively poor from Richarlison. I thought his touches were very, very average, but then in the second half, he grew into the game. And look, he took advantage of being a poacher with the Vinicius opportunity first, and then he got a very, very simple finish for his first goal. But the second goal, that was something exquisite. And the fact that he actually got rest probably suggests that he will play the next game for Brazil again, and I'm very happy to own Richarlison in the subsequent game versus the Swiss team that I thought still looked pretty tame. I don't think Cameroon really challenged them, but I think Brazil is, of course, a different beast. And Richarlison is someone who, when you look at his goal-scoring form for Brazil, is undeniable, and therefore he's going to join the team as well. We were a little bit unsure about him because of the injury doubts and also concerns of whether he was able to play, but the fact that he got rested and he scored a fantastic brace and is ready to play hopefully for Matchday 2 suggests that Richarlison should be an easy lock-in onto our teams, and that's going to be my team selection for the Matchday 2 wildcard. As with everything, we could see a lot of changes through the transfer glitch. We also have the wildcard active all the way through Matchday 2. So try to stay tuned to my Twitter. I might even make some YouTube shorts as well to actually update you guys on any team changes that I do make. But regardless, I hope you guys have a wonderful day ahead. And this team actually has 0.5 million in the budget. So if you actually want to upgrade any specific player and you have 0.5 to do it, I strongly suggest you do so. And thank you guys so much for watching the video.